Hello, faithful. Welcome to White Throne Metal Radio's Unsigned Band series. I am your host, Keven Crothers, station manager for White Throne Metal Radio, staff writer for Heaven's Metal magazine. And today I want to talk about a band that back in the day, I didn't have a huge amount of contact with. And having said that, they really were one of those bands that without a doubt absolutely should have been signed back in the day. There was just no doubt in my mind. And I have to tell you, back in 86, 87, I'm a teenager. I don't have any money, and I could never get a real copy of their first demo tape. And of course, I'm talking about Texas's own Paradox. And it just seemed like I'd been thinking about doing this whole series for a while. You know, I just did a session for Crossforce, but I want to talk about Paradox. And it just seems, I had already picked up the Ruler CD reissue done by Retroactive. And I didn't realize that the second demo, Power and Glory, had been done as well. I wasn't paying attention. That's what happened. You don't pay attention. So, to me, it was like I never interviewed them. I think I remember meeting them. I saw Paradox one time at Cornerstone in 1990. They were there for the Battle of the Bands competition. It might have been 1989, but for some reason I'm thinking it was 1990. And it was in the small building. If you remember Cornerstone, this is when they were still up in Grayslake at the fairgrounds. You had the main stage, you had a big indoor building, and then a smaller indoor building. And I got to go to Cornerstone twice, 1989 and 1990. And for some reason, I'm thinking I saw them in 1990. They went for the Battle of the Bands. I do remember seeing several bands, including I know who the winner was. But when I went, I was like, okay, Paradox. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much because I really had never heard the demo. The first demo, Ruler, I never had a cassette of this, ever. So it wasn't until, I don't know, somebody I tape traded with, essentially after, like a year or two or three later, was I actually able to hear that first demo. And I think bands back then, hey, this was a record, an album. Well, it was never pressed on vinyl back then, and on the West Coast, we called them demos. There are other bands I'm going to talk about in this series, and they were demos, essentially. You could say they were full albums, I suppose, but we never pressed vinyl, or they never pressed vinyl back in the day. They were demos. So anyway, I couldn't get Ruler. They were totally sold out. They weren't printing anymore. So I really had no idea what Paradox sounded like. So they played I think it was a 25-minute set. And, Paradox, when I saw them, it was Manny Castillo on vocals, Fern Hernandez on guitars, with the longest tremolo bar I've ever seen in the history of mankind. John, I believe it's pronounced Galicia, the third, on bass, and his brother, Ephraim Galicia, on drums. And if I pronounce your gentleman's last name incorrectly, I apologize greatly. They had a rhythm guitar player, John Vidari, also on guitars, but John was killed in a tragic auto accident, I believe a year before, 2 years before I saw them. And so it was tough times. So I saw Paradox live. They absolutely, and I'm just going to say it, they kicked ass. Absolutely crushed it. I'm sorry, I should have said PG warning. They did. They crushed it. They were the best band that day. Period. And I remember being so blown away that I remember talking to singer Manny Castillo for a minute, asked him, hey, do you guys have any demos, anything? And Manny actually gave me a cassette copy of the Power and Glory demo, but there wasn't a cover. So I just had this cassette, right? And that was it. They did record a track on the Underground Metal compilation, and I wish it had been better recorded because I thought it sounded a bit better on the demo than it did on the actual CD release. But thank you to Retroactive Records for putting these out. These are, I will tell you this right now, the first 5 songs on Ruler, Long Live the King, Singing All Night, We Are the Temple, the title track Ruler, and Last Race are those 5 songs. That 5-song run is as good as anything that you would have heard from Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Steeler, any of those bands. Absolutely crushing heavy metal with a slight commercial flair. I mean, let me play. I can't decide whether to play a part of Long Live the King or Ruler. So I'm going to play Ruler about 30 to 40 seconds right now.
Behold, I give you power to tread upon all serpents and scorpions, over the power of Satan himself, and you will never, ever, ever be bound.
Welcome back. Ruler from Paradox. Absolutely crushing. And then Power and Glory is more progressive. And I know I'm getting a lot of glare here. I apologize. So I'm going to play the song Power and Glory. Again, 30 seconds of that. This has more progressive elements, but it's heavy, and yet the choruses are very melodic, very engaging, very memorable. And the guitar work is stellar. So 30 seconds here or so of Power and Glory. Welcome back. So, yes, Paradox should have been signed. They should, no disrespect to the band that did win the pure metal competition back then. No disrespect at all. That day, I thought Paradox was the better band. I still prefer heavy, memorable, and they can play. That was always the big thing to me. You know, did they have were they professional? Did they have a look? Was there, did they have the memorable songs? Songs that I got to the end and went, I gotta hear that again. I'm going to play one more Paradox track, and you'll be on your way. This is the title track, Long Live the King.
Watch me have power on me.
welcome back. Paradox, one of those bands that should have been signed, terribly underrated. I know now, retroactive, they've reissued both of these on CD and vinyl. You need to get them if you're a fan of heavy metal. Quality heavy metal. You need to grab these now. Until next time, don't forget to say your prayers, and God bless.